My first success in professional life was working for an entrepreneur. I was his sixth employee. He was selling about $250,000 a year just on eBay. And I came into his purchasing department and ended up running his company within 2 years. And I worked for him for 8, grew him to over 40 million, just selling in e-commerce, $40 million a year.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Believers in Business podcast. I'm your host, Brian Adamson, and today, I got a surprise for y'all today. I have with me Ms. Juliann Crafton, and she is an expert in the e-commerce space. I got some personal questions that I gotta ask her, okay? And hopefully I ask some that are also beneficial to you guys who have been thinking about and considering being in that space. And Juliann has a phenomenal body of work. And I think that she'll be able to help educate us on what we should do and how we should do it throughout that process. Juliann, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. It is a pleasure and an honor to be on here. So thank you so much for your time.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, a lot of the time when you had these conversations, people like to go all the way back, right? And I think there's some merit as to why we would go back there. But I like to start, where are you at today? So if you want to tell us, like, where's Juliann at today? What is life like? What is business like? And then maybe we'll start going backwards a little bit from there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I don't think anybody can do it alone, or at least I haven't seen a lot of people do it. So I have to definitely give credit where credit is due. This is a family business. So we do have, between my husband and I, we have 4 children. And so all of them have worked with us over the years at different points in their lives. And we have one that's doing really, really well. Our oldest son actually does well with our business. But my husband is definitely the backbone. He's my wizard behind the curtain, so to speak. So he's the data guy. He's the accounting guy, loves number crunching and feeding me all kinds of spreadsheets, because any business is a numbers game, and you have to rely on the data that you're given and make sure that it's good, it's pertinent, and it's up to date. And so he does all of that. I get to be with you all and hang out and talk about our business and deal with vendors, and I handle a lot of the purchasing and importing and exporting of products as well. So
Got it.
business-wise, God be praised, because this is 2025 is the year to thrive, right? And we have definitely been blessed in the years that we've been doing this. So in this industry, we've been in it for almost 20 years. It's been going on 6 years for us with our own company. So before, I was building up other companies and entrepreneurs all in the e-commerce space since 2008. And so we have our own warehouse here in Michigan, a few miles from our home. It's about 45,000 square feet. A lot of ins and outs, a lot of moving pieces to e-commerce, but we didn't reinvent the wheel. I always laugh when you say expert, because it's difficult to be an expert in something that is constantly still changing and evolving. And e-commerce certainly does, with all the marketplace changes and rules, and even your own website, right? So you have to incorporate social media and driving traffic and knowing what products are out there. We make money on products that aren't the sexiest things out there, right? But they make money, so I don't care. We do obviously watch viral trends and things like that. I would love to sell beauty and jewelry and clothing and all that, but we honestly stay away from a lot of those fad and fashion items, just because it's not as something that can be as credible as a part for your vehicle or ATV or UTV, that are a little bit more, whether it's a bad economy or good economy, it doesn't matter, because you still need those types of products. And so we tend to stay in the tried and true things that, it's funny, is I think the richest people in the world make money off of the weirdest things that nobody thinks about, because it's just stuff that you use every day. And so those are the ones that we always try to stay within. So across several different niches in that, but it definitely keeps it moving. I love it. It works out well.
Wow. This is going to be good today. This is going to be a fun one today. Are y'all catching this? Okay, I got all different kind of questions. All right, first of all, did you say Michigan?
We are. It's cold. It is snowy and
So you
cold
know that's
here.
where
Yeah.
I'm from. I live in Orlando now, but I'm from Detroit originally. I've been here for 15 years now.
So we're an hour and a half north of Detroit,
Okay.
and we were both born here. I've traveled extensively around the world, thankfully, but
Yeah.
always come back to Michigan. Our
Yeah.
parents are here, our kids are here, so it's hard not to stay here.
So hour and a half north, whereabouts? We talking.
So we're just west of Lansing, towards Flint, like right between Lansing and Flint
Okay.
area.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah. I
little
went to
town
school
called
in Mount
Gloucester.
Pleasant, so I was all in Midland and all
I grew
those.
up in Mount Pleasant
Okay.
area. My parents owned a restaurant up there, two restaurants actually. My father was a builder by trade,
Yeah.
but bought a restaurant in the 80s when building kind of crashed a little bit, real estate crashed. So,
Hey,
yeah.
that's okay. See, this is already off on the right foot. Okay. All right. So hubby is traditional Father's Day. He's in the back, right, doing all the dirty work and getting socks. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
get that,
Yeah.
right? Shout out to hubby for doing his part. So you talked about something that I think is grossly overlooked in society today, and especially in business. Everybody wants to do the sexy thing, right?
Hmm.
Talk about how do you stay disciplined in doing what works as opposed to maybe feeding what your appetite could be at times.
I mean, the biggest thing I'm looking at is risk mitigation, right,
Mm,
for any business owner. And so, even though, I mean, this is our business, but we work for our clients and they
mm,
have to deliver tried and true data and results. Because if you don't, they're not going to stay your clients, right? And thankfully, we've been very, very blessed with our clientele. I know each one of them. I know their story. I know their whys. And that's important to me to be able to work the best that I can do. And I inspire our teams to do the same.
mm,
But really, it works out. Like I said, I would love to be able to go out and buy all the flashy things and invest in those, but those are the riskiest. And so they might have the biggest reward, but you can get an equal or greater reward by staying underneath that viral radar in a sense.
mm,
Not to say that we don't, I mean, I sell electronics, we sell other things as well besides aftermarket parts or machine parts and things like that. But at the end of the day, if that fad changes, which people change their mind so often,
mhm,
why would you want to be left holding the bag? Meaning that then I have to figure out how am I going to sell these things because somebody gave them a bad review and they're no longer wanted or needed now. So I would rather stay with the products that are consistent, that have we do get into some seasonal items in like the sporting goods space and things like that, but it's nothing that is I got to have this next best thing because it's selling millions off the shelf. Well, once that selling stops and it crashes because it's not a needful item, it's a want,
mm.
you're going to be left, if you can get rid of them in time, that's great. But why take that unneeded risk or unnecessary risk if you don't have to? And so doing it this way, keeps us going, keeps us consistent, and cash flow
Mm,
is king. If you're not turning that inventory at least 4 to 7 to 8, 10, 12 times a year, you're in trouble.
mm,
If you've got a 1 or 2 inventory turn, that means your cash flow is stagnant and you're sitting there, watching those products go. And we want to diversify our product line for our clients. So, number one, they're not competing with one another. And number two, that they have consistent sales, right?
mm.
Because if you're sitting there and you got one product and you got a couple $100,000 tied up in it and you have to watch that thing sell, you're going to be sitting there staring at looking at boiling water, right? It just doesn't work that way. So you want to make sure that you have the diversification in there and that they've got products moving all the time.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So
I've been burned. I've been burned is the easiest way to stay away from it. So
yeah, yeah. So you know what? Since you went there, let's go there. Okay. So I've been burned, but let's just say I set myself on fire. Let's be clear about how I got burnt. Okay. So during 2020, now I've been a real estate guy for the last almost 2 decades. Hey, real quick, if you are a coach, consultant, business owner, aspiring business owner, you want to start making more money online. Maybe you stuck at that 5, 10, 20K a month ceiling. Maybe some of you are still in ideation mode. You're just like, I got to get out of this job. I know I got something in me I need to give birth to, but you can't quite figure out how to either scale it or start it. Make sure you come to our Purpose to Profits Challenge. My partner David and I are going to be showing you how to successfully grow your business online, helping you with content creation, helping you with marketing strategies, helping you with sales, fulfillment, the whole nine. Showing you our exact systems on how we went from not making 6 figures a year, not multiple 6 figures a year, but 6 figures a month and even sometimes 6 figures in a day. If that sounds like you, make sure you click the link in the description, sign up for the challenge. General admission is only $17. All right, $47 for the VIP. If you want to spend 1 hour exclusively with David and I each day and ask all of your questions specifically, make sure you get the VIP ticket. We will see you there, and get back to the episode. Everybody had the 2020 panic. What's happening, right? So now we don't know, everything is shut down except for essential, and we have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
So my wife and I are talking, and she's like, I've been seeing a lot about e-commerce. I think we should open an Amazon store, right? Happy wife, happy life. I'm like, okay, I know nothing about that, right? I know nothing about that, but if that's a passion of yours, I support it. So let's do it.
Yeah.
So we go out, we sign up with 2 different gurus, air quotes, right? They're going to business in a box. They got us covered. Just give them the 40 grand on one, give them, I think the other one's maybe 15, 20. And there were a lot of transactions happening. Okay.
Yeah.
Lots of revenue being made. I don't know that we made any money throughout the entire process though. And then stores got shut down. You heard the horror story I don't know how many times, right?
Oh, we had a couple clients, not that we did anything wrong or they did anything wrong, but we had a couple clients affected because Amazon made these broad sweeps, right? Every industry has bad actors. Real estate is a big one. I mean, I grew up in real estate, right? I know when there's problems and you're buying a house or you're buying commercial, whatever it is, and you have to do your due diligence. So it's there. And so you don't lose money with real estate in a sense, but you have to be able to sit on it for a while until that comes back, because the economy comes back. It does. It's cyclical. It has to. So Amazon made these massive broad sweeps, and it hurt a lot of really good people, and they still make some big sweeps. So since I've been doing this before Amazon was even Amazon, when they were still doing only books and records and cassettes and things like that, the last 4 years, they've made more changes in their marketplace than any other time since I've been working with them, right? eBay probably has made the least amount of changes, but they still did. You had a lot of, I hate to say overseas people, because I deal and I've traveled and I know and are very close and dear friends, a lot of people around the world. But there was a lot of people that came into the e-commerce space that were just bad actors, right? And so when that happens, they have to make some changes, because Amazon is definitely a customer-centric marketplace. They will always take care of their end users, not necessarily their sellers.
I learned that.
You have to know that, and it's their sandbox. So you have to understand how to play within those rules and regulations. And sometimes they're not fair. Yeah. It is the bottom line. They're not fair because they don't have to be. They have to be fair to them and who they prioritize, and they for sure prioritize the end customer. There was actors coming in that would create a whole lot of sales in a very short amount of time, collect the money, put in fake tracking. And I didn't even know fake tracking was a thing, that companies were selling fake tracking so that bad actors could put that into their stores, collect the money, and then run. Wow. And then they would just rinse and repeat. And so Amazon did make some very broad sweeps to people who, and then their inventory chain, right? So Amazon is supposed to be a free marketplace, meaning you could buy something from a garage sale or resale shop or from your next door neighbor or whatever it was, and you could sell it. That's not really true anymore in a sense, because now you have to have a product chain, a purchasing chain. So if you're buying from a distributor that you met at a vendor show or that you met on the sidewalk, you need to verify that they're approved through a letter of authorization, or you have granted access to their brand registry account in order to sell products. And when you get into really big brands, like your Nike and things like that, you need even more proof that you're approved to sell that brand. So you can't just buy Nike off the street anymore and jump on somebody else's listing, or create your own listing, right? And just sell it as Nike, but the brand is General or however you want to work it. Doesn't work like that anymore. They made some very, very big changes due to that.
Got it.
And so sellers like yourself, if you got your store shut down, When you have to appeal to Amazon, it's like going to the federal government appellate's court,
Mm-hmm.
really. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it is a big deal. You have to have the right format, you have to have the right verbiage, and then it's not a one and done process for most people.
Yeah.
It means that you have to have a gosh, with the appeal itself, then you have to have what you're going to do, what happened. And sometimes and most of the time, they won't even tell you what's wrong with the account or why
Mm-hmm.
they shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
They'll give it a section 3 or section this, section that. And it's very broad and ambiguous. And they won't tell you what you need to correct in order to make it right. And so, from a seller's standpoint, it's super frustrating because you're like, okay, what do I need to do? I want to be a good seller. I want to be, that person for you for Amazon. And they're not super helpful in telling you that. They have internal notes, right? So they don't give you the sauce in order to do it, which has created other businesses in order to help sellers, right? So now you have Amazon specific lawyers. Come on, 10 years ago, there was no such thing, and people laughed at e-commerce. When I first started selling in e-commerce, well, you're not a real business. You're in your mother's basement. You're in this, you're in that. I'm like, no, it's a real business. Now financial institutions will borrow. You can borrow against your business because it is a real business. Just because you sell in e-commerce, imagine trying to get a loan at a brick and mortar store now, who relies on foot traffic and car traffic that goes past your door. That's not very much.
For
You
sure.
you are so limited.
For sure.
But when you sell in e-commerce, you have a much bigger playing ground. It's like going from your little backyard pond behind your mom's house and then going to the ocean. You got a huge difference.
Yeah.
And so you have a much broader audience that has traffic right in front of you that are ready, willing, and able to buy. Versus your brick and mortar store. I love small businesses, love them, and I feel bad because brick and mortar stores have a much tougher road to hoe nowadays than they did, years ago.
Yeah.
And so I went through that process where distributors and manufacturers would look at you and they're like, "Oh, you just sell e-commerce." Well, that's not, that's nothing. That's not a big thing. Well, give me a year or two and I'll show you it wasn't. And I did. I
Right.
did. I mean,
Right.
my
Right.
first success in professional life was working for an entrepreneur. I was his sixth employee. He was selling about $250,000 a year just on eBay.
Mhm.
And I came into his purchasing department, which was a department, but it was me, myself, and I as the department at the time, and ended up running his company within 2 years. And I worked for him for 8, grew him to over 40 million, just selling in e-commerce, $40 million a year.
For,
We had a
in
warehouse
what
for
time frame was this? 40 million bucks in
8 years,
wow.
from 250,000 to for over 40 million.
Wow, that's
8
amazing.
years.
That's
So
amazing. So you've done this a little bit, it sounds like, right? At least a little bit.
just a tad,
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
tad. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's I'm so glad we got you here today because I'm gonna tell you, it's the brink of 2025, right? And everybody is looking for other ways to diversify. I
Yep.
saw a statistic, I think over 70% of people that have left their jobs in the last 24 months have done so because of a lack of fulfillment, right?
Yeah.
So even those that are high income earners just are losing a sense of self-worth at work. And I would venture to say many of them are looking for opportunities like e-commerce,
Yeah.
right? And so since I have you here and you've done $40 million, how would you advise someone to start out in this process of even becoming an e-commerce owner?
Well, every situation is a little bit different, right? So, like yourself, so you had stores before, so you do have a little bit of knowledge and what to look for, what not to look for. But a lot of people are like, I don't know how to do it, or maybe they don't want to make it their main thing that they're doing, and so they look for businesses or companies like what we do
Hmm.
to be able to run it for them. But you should always have some sort of overlay knowledge, and we're extremely transparent with our clients in along the way. I mean, nothing is ever a get rich quick, situation. This is a long game. You're creating a business to withstand every financial and economic situation. So you need to understand it's a business. It has cash flow, it has ups and downs, it has all of these things. But at the end of the day, if you can create that consistency and then duplicate it, we call it franchising, right? In a sense, because Amazon's not the only marketplace. They may be the largest now, but sometime, someday, somebody's going to take them over. So eBay is still super strong. Walmart is still super strong. So why not diversify, leveraging those same distributor relationships and products against other stores, right? So you get the one up and going, you add on Walmart, you add on eBay or whatever it is. Are you going to say no to an extra 5 or 10, thousand per month? It's smaller than Amazon, but
Right.
why not?
Yeah.
It just, that's how you work to really scale. And you're diversifying within the e-commerce space, right? So Amazon may have some troubles. You maybe get some IP complaints or something like that,
Hmm.
where Walmart and eBay, they're different, right? Each one of them are different and it's very separate with their consumer base. I've done a ton of geographical studies and over the years to know, just like you and I, when we go buy groceries, I go to the store that I know. I know the layout. I feel good about it. I'm confident in where things are at, and you go. But you know in the back of your head, hey, I could probably go to Walmart or Myers or some other place and get a little better price on this or that or the other thing. But I don't want to go to 15 stores. I want to go to one. And so price changes on every marketplace all the time, but you feel comfortable, confident, and it's easy for you. It's the most convenient and efficient. So continue to go back to that same store. It's the same thing on e-commerce, same thing in e-commerce. But it's the same principle in social media. If you are an Instagram person, you're going to stay on Instagram, even though most likely the same content or different content is on other social media platforms. But it's where you feel and you're most familiar with. And so you stay there and you do it.
That's
So
really good.
why
That's
not?
really good. Yeah, that's really good perspective. So the first thing I hear you saying, if one has an appetite to go out and start a store, get some help. I think that's what I heard you say. Get some help.
Yes, yeah. You
Okay.
you you
Because
you always need help.
yeah, I don't disagree. Because I can tell you personally, we still have 10, 20 grand locked up with Amazon, right? That we just never got back, right?
Yeah,
Because of this appeals process and all the stuff that you're talking
yeah,
about. So I would highly recommend for those that have an appetite. And by the way, we're not saying this to scare you or deter you. We're saying this to inform you, right? There's
yeah.
inherent risk to any type of business dealings. And I have Julianne here today to help prepare you guys as much as possible if you decide to go and pursue those endeavors. So, Julianne, if you don't mind, could you talk just a little bit about how you guys work with clients, just in case someone's
Yeah.
interested?
Absolutely. So, when a client comes to us, obviously there's an onboarding process, depending on how big they want to go or start off with. So, we have a one store marketplace option, we have a three-store marketplace option. Walmart is still a closed marketplace. So, I always say you start off with your Amazon and your eBay if you're going to do the triple. And then a couple months later, we will add your Walmarts because I'm going to get a much higher approval rating if I've already got two other marketplaces, unless you have a website, right? If you have a website going already, that makes that our Walmart application easier, faster, and more convenient. But you do have to get approved with Walmart. They get onboarded. Obviously, when they come to us, we always recommend that they have a company, an EIN, a business bank account. This is a real endeavor that you need to set up properly, and those are the best ways to do it. There's monthly fees with all three marketplaces, and they have different structures of them, right? So it's $39.99 for Amazon and Walmart. eBay, you're going to start off at a basic package, which is like $21.95, I believe, and then you scale up from there depending on the quantity of listings that you have.
Just to be clear,
eBay,
is that $2,195 and 39?
one, so $39.99 for Amazon is the monthly fee, so it's like $40 a month,
Okay,
right? That they
when we
charge.
when we say these numbers, I just want to make sure because
There's not, yeah,
Julianne, it's
zeros
not every
out
day
there.
that I hear $30, $40 about anything. So when I hear
Yeah,
29, I'm like, so it's $2,995. Okay, all right,
yeah.
so we clear. So 21.95. Okay,
Yes, yeah,
okay,
for eBay per month. And those are that's the marketplace charge to have a storefront,
okay.
right? Amazon, after you sell $10,000 worth of sales, you have to have liability insurance. And so that's another 20 to $30, and it graduates as your sales increase, right? For a single marketplace, we have an onboarding fee. It is $35,000. And then we do an 80-20 split with our clients on profit, not sales. There's a big difference, right? And then we don't bill until at the end of every quarter. Now, if I were to give you sales numbers, that would make my job a lot easier. Why would I, try to make sure that you're profitable, if I just bounce it off as sales, and so that doesn't make sense. It is a bigger onboarding fee. If you want to do three stores, it's 55. But there's reasons for it, right? I
Hmm.
know that I need to get you from zero, because you're starting off brand new, to $250,000 sales per month. That's my target for every single client, and then above that onboards with us. And so I have overhead with employees and warehouse powerhouses and things like that, because we manage literally everything for you. You have to manage your deposits and you have to manage your inventory capital. That's all I ask of my clients. So when you're asked to do consumer verification information, I can't do that for you. You have to do that. But it's, we handle the returns, we handle any shipping, any tracking, customer service questions, all of the above. We leverage our warehouse for labeling and shipping for you. So you're not paying those extra fees to use a 3PL or 4PL option for that. Yes, it's Michigan, which is a little bit logistically challenged, but I've been importing there for years and it still works. So it's not an issue. To be able to do that. So there's no additional fees. It's not an additional onboarding cost. We deliver a service agreement for the first year and then it auto renews after that with no additional fees. Besides, at the end of every quarter, we do a full reconciliation of every single sale that comes out and your returns. And then if your returns if we can't sell them as open box, right? Then we actually donate them and give you the tax slip for those on your behalf, or we can ship them back to you, whichever you like. I haven't had a client take me up on that yet, but and then also staying in our niche for the product types that we have a much lower return rate. I don't want 15%, return rate. I don't. I want to keep that, between that 5 and 10 at the very most from the ceiling, because that doesn't make sense. Because to me, that's a fake number. If you're selling a lot of stuff, but you're also getting 30% returns,
Sure.
that doesn't help anybody.
Sure.
You're losing money on that situation. Until you get to a certain point and have enough spend power to buy specific products, I don't do advertising on here either, because it doesn't make sense. I don't want to cut into that margin. The margins start off between 4 and 8%. And in the beginning, because we need to aggressively price your products in your store to get that store moving. But then it moves up. It gets to 10, it gets to 15, it gets to 12, in that realm. But if you're getting your money returned back to you every 14 days, and then we do a hybrid. So some of it is direct shipping, direct from manufacturers. And then we also do wholesale as well. But you're not going to start off with $50,000 wholesale, because it doesn't make sense as a new store. You're going to start off with like $3,000 to $5,000. And then you're going to sell that through. And then before it's all gone, I'm going to come back and say, here's another, we're going to reorder these because they did really well. And we're going to add some other ones to your store as well.
Yeah.
But you want to have a good variety in your store. But I'm not building you a brand. I'm building you a storefront. So I'm not, brand is for private label products, right? If I wanted to sell these scarves all the time, I need to have a brand so that people become loyal and come back and see the other designs that I come up with. But I'm not doing that. I just want to sell products that are selling, that people want to buy. So I don't need to develop a trademark and logo and all that for this type of strategy.
This is so good. Like, let us know in the comments how you guys are enjoying this. I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation. Okay, I see. Every time you open your mouth, Juliann, I got so many other questions after that, right? Because one thing that you just said that I love. My philosophy on sales is stop looking for people to sell stuff to and make yourself more findable for the people that already want to buy what you have to sell, right? So I love what you just said. So I'm a numbers guy. So I'm looking at this financial runway, right? So 4 to 8% margins. You're trying to get the store to $250,000 as fast as possible, so you can get to $10,000 to $20,000 in profit as fast as possible, right? I love that. So when you look at 35 to 55 grand between, I think it was 1 or 3 stores was like the startup, which is really insignificant to start any business nowadays. And from there, you guys run everything, right?
We do.
How capital intensive is it for the store owner at that point going forward after the initial funds that are required?
So initially, and that's why, stores have to scale. If I come out of Amazon and put up, 500,000 listings in your store, they're going to put your account on review, number one, because your sales are going to be too high, too fast.
Okay.
Because Amazon meters you, and all the other marketplaces do as well. So there is a cadence to it, right? So if you come to me and say you have $1 million for inventory capital, great. You're still going to spend that $3,000 to $5,000 in the beginning, because you need to grease those wheels and show Amazon or show the other marketplaces that you're a good seller, that you're connected, you have your tracking done, your customer service, all of that. We literally, through our software, connect vendors direct to the back end of your store
Hmm.
so that orders can go through inventory, new listings, tracking information, right? All of that has to happen in real time so that there's no late orders, late shipments, or anything like that in our warehouse. You as a client always maintain primary access. You as a client always maintain monies go into your bank accounts. They do not come into ours or anything like that. People are like, well, aren't you worried that people aren't going to pay you? If you don't pay me after we've done your first quarter through there, hey, you know what? I'm not going to do the work, and then you're not going to get anything else. So
For
what
sure.
is good is that? And you know, thankfully, like I said, the Lord's blessed us with very good clients, and why would you? It is a business situation, and so we do the work on the back end. And this is a cooperation too. I want you to use full cash flow during those months so that you can grow and expand your business as well. That's the goal that both of us have to agree on in order for it to be a win-win situation, right?
For sure.
I know I need to get you to this amount, and you may not have enough capital today in order to get to $250,000 in sales. But if I can get you 10%, average in profit, and you keep reinvesting that and growing it and moving it forward, you're going to be able to have that in that 8 to 10 to 12 months time period that it takes me to get you to that level.
Yeah.
Right. And so why not do it? I mean, you're going to be as motivated as I because this is your future. And then year one is great. Year two is better. Year three is better because you got to pay yourself back for that initial investment too. And I get that. This is a business, and you're right. Numbers have to make sense and work out.
For sure. Yeah. And I love what you said also about the profit share aspect, right? So you guys essentially bolt on and bolt into this business and become a partner. So you have a vested interest in its performance on a monthly basis because you guys get paid from a continuous point.
Yes, the more money I can make you, the more money my paycheck's increasing too. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. I probably should have did this earlier in the conversation, but I think it's important. Can you just explain? Because I think e-commerce, it sounds somewhat intimidating if you don't understand the nuance of what that is, right? Some people like, well, I see like Shopify sites. I see. So can you explain in very elementary terms to people what is e-commerce?
I always boil it down. Everybody asks me, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "I buy and sell products, whether it's for ourselves or for clients." And that's really what it boils down to, right? There's no reinvention of the wheel. Each marketplace has a little bit of a difference when it comes to how can I get my products to sell versus somebody else and things like that. How do you win the buy box on Amazon? How do you market so that eBay and Walmart, each one of the marketplaces handle their catalogs different, which is how you need to react to what they're doing on that specific marketplace in order to get your store the best that's out there, right?
Mm,
Of course, we've got some secret sauce and tricks that we've learned over the past 20 years that we implement, and that's great. But you're buying products, and the bigger your buys, so as your store, as your company increases, your buy and your my goal is to get you the lowest cost of goods, right? So in the e-commerce industry, you want to have the lowest cost for you to purchase so that you can make more money when you sell the products. And when it comes to Shopify, the difference with Shopify versus a marketplace
mm-hmm.
is Shopify, which is similar to like a standalone website. You have to drive traffic to that website to get people to know that you're there, right? So think of Shopify or your website as sitting in the middle of the desert. How do I get people to notice me to buy my products that I'm there? Well, the marketplaces, so Amazon, Walmart, and eBay, and there's a lot of smaller ones. A TikTok Shop is a really big one that we've been working on for the past year or so.
Mm-hmm.
They have a ready, willing, and able audience, right? So you pay those marketplaces by the fees because they take fees out of every sale, and they have to pay a monthly fee for them as well. That's how they get paid to use their traffic that they've already got willing there. So that is the difference between the two. Either you're going to create your own website, whether it's Shopify or WooCommerce or Magento or whatever else they are. You're going to pay to have traffic go by your store there, or you pay to be on these marketplaces for people that are already ready to buy, and you can sell your products there. So
Yeah, that's really
those are
good.
the main differences between the two.
Yeah, yeah, and thank you for that clarification because I think it's a question that many have swirling around in their heads, and I love the idea of you know a ready-made marketplace, right, or ready-made platform, if you will. So I'm a business coach. I help people grow and scale their coaching and consulting businesses online, and one of the things that I'm always telling them is like, listen, if you're not posting content, on these platforms that will allow you to post they allow you to market your business for free. And not only market your business for free, then they'll pay you to run advertising through your channel, which is crazy to me, right? And so it's like the day of handing out business cards and how nice the paper is and all, it's just done, right? If you give someone a business card, anybody that's serious about doing business with you are Googling your name to look up your social footprint, period. So if you're not populating these ready-made environments that already have people looking for you, so you don't have to go out looking for them, then like, what are we doing, right? Because we're not trying to maximize and make the most amount of money. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And I laugh because content is my hardest thing to sit in front of that camera. So I give you ultimate props. It really is. It really is. We've never done a lot of marketing. I love doing podcasts. I think that is wonderful.
Yeah.
And so we've done that this year, but you're absolutely right. And it cracks me up because that's like the hardest thing, to talk to a camera when nobody's asking you questions or, interacting to you. Because
Yeah.
my life is boring in a sense that I do look at numbers and spreadsheets and I talk to distributors and manufacturers.
I
That's
get it.
it,
I get it.
and so
It
it's
it
not that exciting.
it is weird. I empathize, right? I started on social media in 2018. So I'm an 80s baby. I'm 41 now. So I think at that time I was in my mid to late 30s. And it was the strangest thing to get on Instagram Live. And at that time, they didn't have like split screen and talk to other people. You were literally
Right.
talking to God knows who about God knows what. And it was the most unnerving thing. But then when COVID happened, I started doing these fireside chats. So I would go live every single day. I did it for 6 months straight. I missed 4 days.
Wow.
And for the first 2 weeks, my finger would shake. It was that unnerving every time that I would hit the button. But there was a bigger need, right? People during that time needed the administration of hope, the administration of help. I was teaching people financial literacy, how to invest in. So the need was bigger than my fear, which forced me to do it. And then eventually I got more comfortable with it. It still is a very weird place, Julianne. Let's make no mistake about that. But there's still no better place to market yourself
Yeah.
than social media. But believe it or not, you are not in rare company. I would say 90% of my coaching clients, that's the area that they all struggle in, is cutting on the camera.
Mhm.
And they're phenomenal people like you are.
But it's human nature. It's human
It
fears, right?
is.
It's our
It is.
own lack of believability and,
It
and
is.
things like that. And I think everybody goes through it. It's interesting because what's funny is that fear is what stops like my clients from doing it themselves, like what you're talking about, right?
Okay.
And they're worried about what they don't know, and I understand it because when any business, if you go into it and you haven't done your due diligence and research, you can get yourself into a world of trouble.
Oh,
Just, I
for
mean,
sure.
imagine trying to buy a commercial property or vacant piece of property or a home, or building a home. If you didn't understand how to be a general contractor and know what subs you had to be put in place and what inspections have to be done in what order, you're going to get yourself in a world of trouble
Mm-hmm.
real fast, real
Mm-hmm.
fast. And that's
Mm-hmm.
true in any industry. Any
Ignorance is
industry.
expensive.
It is. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Ignorance is expensive. So, the essence of this pod is to help people, all the viewers, like they're here because they want to figure out how to live a level 10 life, right?
Yeah.
I think society as a whole has started to like hang out in this 3 4 to 5. Like most people, unlike yourself, myself, have kind of given up on the idea of anything they will call a dream, anything they will consider to be outside of the norm. And so we just acquiesce and go along with societal standards. But the people that watch this podcast they're not those folks, right? They're trying to figure out how do I index and over index in all of these various areas. So faith, fitness, finance, freedom, and family.
Yeah.
So what I'm putting you in the hot seat, Julianne, to find out how do you incorporate each one of these elements into your life and business as a high capacity, high functioning, high producing business owner. So we can start with faith. Well, let's just start with that.
That's good to me. So faith is really big in our home, and I'm super thankful for that. And I grew up in a home that was really big on faith. And both of my parents and going to church. I'm the youngest out of 5 kids. First one to go to college.
Mm.
My father, I told you, was a builder, so my two older brothers definitely grew up in that industry. And then when I was in elementary school, they bought a restaurant thinking that, oh, this will give my sister's 3 years older than I am. The daughter something to do, right? They just envisioned this cute little thing. My father was an avid hunter, big game hunter. I mean, he went to Alaska and Colorado and all these places in Canada to go hunting. And but they both like to cook, and so that's why they opened up a restaurant. But clearly, that's a risk taker, right? When my father was dating my mom, he was still a builder. My grandfather was in the masonry, so they built a lot of fireplaces, did a lot of cement work. That's how he started. And my grandfather, before he was my grandfather, wanted to put my father to put a fireplace in their home. And so my dad cut the hole in the roof, prepped everything, got it going, and took my mom on a date one night and said, my mom was asking me, like, how many of these have you already done? And he's like, well, this is my first one. And she was like, what? You took a hole in my father's house and you'd never done it before? And he's like, well, I've seen it done. My dad's done it all the time. I can do it. That was him, though. That was him. No fear, risk taker mentality. And it was amazing because he knew he could figure it out. He had faith in himself that God had given him the tools to be able to do it. And not just, I mean, obviously he had the trade, right? He knew how to lay brick and lay stone and block and so forth. So he didn't come without the tools, but he knew that he could figure it out and that, he would be led through the way. And that really was instilled in me at a really young age. My parents allowed me to be part of the business world at a young age, and that's what I love is business. Restaurants, I loved being in the restaurant. I paid my way through college by waitressing and bartending at nights and doing different things because that's how you learn to be able to have good customer service. And your faith in God that you grow up with and that your prayers every day and all day and you talking to him gives you the strength and the knowledge to be able to get through because sometimes not everything is perfect. There's not, rainbows and roses every single day. I wish there was. I wish there was.
Me too.
But he promises,
Yeah.
there's over 800 promises in the Bible, and God can't break a promise because he lived a perfect life. So if he can live a perfect life and he created a promise that I know that I can trust in, that's the faith that gives me through it because he's never going to leave us. He's never going to forsake us. And he's always there to carry us when we need him to.
That's good.
So I'm going to do my do best and then give the rest up to him. And it works out. It's not always perfect, but he gets you through it every single day. So that's the faith that it requires in order to do what we do on a daily basis, what you do on a daily basis to be able to get you through. You have to rely on those promises because that's not a promise that you and I made. That's a promise that he made and he wrote it down in the Bible, and you can rely on that more than you can rely on anything else in this world.
For sure. For sure. That's so good. It's yeah, it's a daily do, right? And I
Yeah.
know the days where I feel as if I didn't talk to him before I started my day. Like I can sense it. I'm like, what's off? And I think I found entrepreneurs are some of the most faith-based individuals, regardless of what your belief system is. You're
Sure.
still a faith-based person in the sense that nothing is guaranteed in the world we live in, right? Like we put
Taxes and debt.
system, yeah, right, that's it. And so as an entrepreneur, without having the dependency of a paycheck, you have projections, you have forecasts, but as you know, until the confirmation hit, it ain't happening, right? Like we just can't fall in love with comfort, and we can't fall in love with control as much as that's so funny, although we chase control daily, right? It's like the more we chase it, we realize we don't have any of it. The only thing we control is the inputs. God controls the outputs, right?
There's a saying that my father passed away a couple years ago, and my mom, who's 80 now, don't tell her I said that, okay? Because she still plays pickleball, she still goes to the
Okay.
gym a couple times a week, she's super active, she drives, she does all this. She wrote a book this year,
Wow.
about her life and her experiences because my dad was just the crazy, right? He was out there doing all day long, and but she was the rock. She was the rock that took care of the little things because he was definitely the visionary behind it all.
Yeah.
So, but it was difficult, obviously, in that transition. I mean, they were married for 65 years. So that's a long time.
Yeah.
And then when you're left without that best friend, that somebody to talk to, how do you get out of it? And I always laughed. I'm like, they're called growing pains,
Mm-hmm.
right? So as a child, when you're growing up, your bones are expanding and you're getting bigger and your height is changing and your weight is changing and you're doing all this. Well, they're called growing pains because you're stepping outside your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is where you're at today. You're outside your comfort zone is where you want to be tomorrow because it's what you need to do and you need that growth to get you there, right?
That's good.
It's painful. But if you are always comfortable in your life, you're not going to grow.
Yeah.
When I was in the corporate world running that company and a few others before that, I reached my ceiling. I didn't know what else I needed to do because I was focused every single day in getting to where we needed to be. And we had phenomenal growth, right? Phenomenal growth. But I didn't work on me. I didn't get uncomfortable with me. I was comfortable because I knew every single day without much of a doubt what I could have because I had 100 people working for me. That's a lot of manpower,
Yeah.
women power, whatever. It was mixed, right? But you
It is
need to be
2025. Let's clear that up, Juliann.
it wasn't all men, trust me. There was a lot of women. But no, you need to make yourself stay uncomfortable because and get comfortable with
For
uncomfortability
sure.
because that's where you grow.
For sure.
That's how you change and that's how you expand your mind. And I never wanted to be the smartest person in the room. I surround myself with people smarter than me because that's how I'm going to grow and learn and see what's going to be different out there.
Amen.
And I think so many people, like to your point, if they have a 9 to 5, it's a facade
It
because
is.
that 9 to 5 isn't guaranteed. You think it is because that paycheck comes if you put in 40 hours or 50 hours or whatever it is. Or maybe you work 60 or 70 hours because you work in a factory. I get that. But at any point in time, GM, Ford, Chrysler, or whoever the factory is made can pull those contracts. Guess what? Who has the biggest target on their back? It's the highest paid one.
Mm,
And so that, between that and private equity looking to buy out the company I was running, I didn't want to start all over again for somebody else.
for sure.
We wanted to do it for ourselves.
For
And
sure.
that's what give us. Was it scary? Yeah. You're leaving a cushy job that you worked your whole life to get to that had the 401ks, which are not great things, right? It had the insurance, it had all of that. And so you're like, my family, they were totally for it. My husband's family, they lived a very conservative life
Mm,
and they worked hard to have that, but they both have pensions and have, and all because they worked hard.
yeah.
They did the American dream, which is to graduate high school, go to college, buy a home, get married, all of that. They did it perfect. They did it perfect. They saved their entire life. And so they're comfortably retired. And I'm thankful for that for
Hmm.
them
Hmm.
because that's a huge testament to them. But that's not our life. And I
Yeah.
remember my husband having a difficult conversation with his parents and saying, no, we're really going to do this because they were like, what? You're going to quit a job that, he was CFO at the time. And people are like, why would you do that? Back then, earning 6 figures was a big deal. And it still is a big deal,
Yeah.
but it's not as big of a deal anymore. And so when we topped our sales with our own company from what I did in 8 years, and we did it faster with our own company, collectively with our clients, that was an exciting time.
Yeah. For sure.
But it took that out of the circle thinking. I didn't want to be put in that box or circle. I wanted to think outside of that and do something different and get uncomfortable
Yeah.
because you got to get comfortable with uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to grow.
Facts, 100%. Yeah, I love to say you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? A lobster, before we eat it, changes its shell like 7 to 9 times because it hits these growth spurts. And because of this discomfort, it has to deshell itself and grow another one back, or it won't grow. And so we are no different. And you very well
And the meat
articulated
is
that.
sweeter because of it.
That's right. That's right, Julianne. That's right, Julianne. So, speaking of sweet meat, okay, this is probably the area that most entrepreneurs, business owners struggle in by and large the most, right? Fitness. How do we
Mhm.
incorporate, not, and when I say fitness, I mean physical health, mental health. How do we incorporate our wellness into this ecosystem of business and life?
So it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle because I grew up in the restaurant. I love to cook.
Mm,
I love to cook. I don't have my own garden anymore because I don't have enough time for that. But it's choosing to eat healthily. It's choosing to eat in moderation. It's not that you have to go on a diet, because I hate diets,
Hmm.
but you have to stay fit. And then keeping yourself on a schedule that is not punching a time clock, but you're creating your own time clock to be able to do it. So you get up at 5 or 6 in the morning, and I like to work out in the morning. My husband likes to work out at night, but you figure it out that what makes you tick. And to your point, when you're talking about when you didn't talk to God in the morning, you knew something was off. That is the same for when you're doing fitness or not doing fitness too.
For
And
sure.
so you have to make yourself do it. If I get bored sometime, if I have some free time, I head down to the warehouse because I know I'll get put to work,
That's
boxing up
right.
items and moving stuff around. And sometimes that's all I have time to do during the week. And on the weekends, I can go out and do, exercising and go for a walk. If you go for an outside walk every single day, even in the cold right now, you're breathing better air, you're getting out there, the nature gets to you, you're feeling better, you get more exhilarated than if you sit in this chair, which is what I do 90% of the
For
time.
sure.
Whether it's emailing or talking to clients or Zoom meetings or podcasts, you have to make yourself adhere to a schedule. And because you can have wealth, and that's great, but if your health isn't good, how long is that wealth going to last you? Right. And so you have to be mindful of that and then create the schedule to make sure that you're putting that in there because it's important. And you better believe your clients put that in there, or you better believe the people that follow you, because you have to lead by example.
For
Leading
sure.
just to talk doesn't do anything. You
For
have to
sure.
lead by example to get it done.
For
And
sure.
nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect, right? You can screw up on the holidays and have chocolate and have pies and eat more lobster than you would during the year, but you just get back to it. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
a lifestyle, not a diet, and you work out and keep yourself healthy that way. I've been going to a naturopathic doctor
Yep.
for 30 years now. I was in a bad
Wow.
car accident when I was a teenager,
Okay.
and I had lots of surgeries, and the doctor said, "Well, you may not walk, you may not have children, you may not do this." Well, guess what? I have two boys of my own. I obviously can, well, I shouldn't say obviously because they're sitting down, but I can walk, I can run, I can exercise and
We
do all that
believe you.
stuff.
We believe you, Julianne. We believe
Right? Yeah. I used to ride horses as a teenager. But no, if you can break, I think it was like 20 some bones, right? Both legs, pelvis, ribs, all that kind of wrist, jaw, all kinds of good stuff. You can get through it. You
you.
can
Wow.
get through it.
Wow.
And you never assume that you have it worse off than somebody else. When you walk into a conversation, somebody had it worse than you. And when you come into that conversation with that humble attitude, you're going to be better off for it.
Yeah.
Better
Yeah.
off for it. I don't like playing the victim.
I love that. Victims lose, just so everybody know. Like you
Yes.
play that game, you lose every time. So
Yes.
it is so much of just so much goodness of what you just said. One, so the reason that these five pillars mean so much to me is because I've had the most amount of challenges in every last one of them. And it's a continual effort and a continual challenge that you have to continuously fight if you want to have the teamings of true success. Because I've never met a wealthy person whose health was compromised that was still focused on their wealth. When your health is compromised, the money don't matter anymore. And yet us as business owners, entrepreneurs, we forget that. And what you just said, it has to be a planned event, because if it goes, everything else that you've been doing all of a sudden isn't so important. And so I love that. Priority number one. Secondly, yes, it is a roller coaster and a fight and a battle for everybody. And diets, to your point, are meant for you to die to it. So they never work, right? Like that don't work. But lifestyle does. And 18 years ago, I lost 60 pounds and I've kept it off since then. And I typically have like this 5 pound threshold that I give myself. This holiday season was out of pocket. Let me just be honest with y'all, okay? So I probably surpassed that. As more like a 8 to 9 pound swing, which I'm working on getting back together now. But the point is if you can measure it like any other business, right? If you can look at your health and wellness as such, and you can keep KPIs on it as well, then to your point, going to a naturopathic doctor for 30 years, my daughter just talked me into getting one in the last year and a half. And it's absolutely it. If you have not tried it, please go do, because they look at things. See, when you go to the doctor, they're they're reactive, right? They're far less preventative and
You're
proactive, and they're far more
symptomatic.
100%. when you have a naturopathic doctor give you a total workup, now you can start to predict things, right? And they're looking at things that your general doctor just won't, right? Because that's not what they're there for. So highly recommend that. That's an aside. But I appreciated also what you said. We don't have to treat this fitness health journey as a traditional go to the gym type of thing. Just
Right.
literally getting out of a sedentary position, going to walk outside, walking up and down the stairs in your house if you need to. Just get your body moving because God designed this thing to move. And so it actually breaks down faster the less you use it. So you move it or you lose it.
Yes.
Um,
My inspiration is my 80-year-old mother every day because if she can do it, I sure as
for
heck better be able to
sure.
do it.
Pickleball at 80 is crazy, right? Like shout out to mom.
She had one fall and I was so worried. She never broke a bone
Mm,
at 80.
that's
At
good.
80.
That's
And
good.
you fell hard on the pickleball court.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not soft.
That's good. That's good. So let's talk really quick. I'm gonna rapid fire these last couple and get you out of here. I appreciate your time. Freedom. Okay. When I say freedom, a lot of the time we look at it from a vein of how much financial freedom can we uh, like obtain, right?
Yeah.
But when I say freedom in this context, I'm talking freedom from strongholds, freedom from poor relationships, thinking, maybe substance abuse. What type of things have you had to break free from to get to this point in life that you're in right now?
I think a lot of people, it's a life that is generational, right? So I had a great childhood. I grew up in a middle class family. I mean, I had a really good life. I can't say there was a lot of complaints. Yeah, I had a car accident. Okay, great, but you can overcome them. But there was very close people in my family, and my father was one of them. And he got away from the Lord at the later ends of years of his life, because his body, he never took care of his body. He always made sure my mom did and us kids did, but he never did, right? Because he didn't want to have to be told what to do. I love the man to no end, and so, but you have to face reality. And so alcohol was his that he had a hard time saying no to, and he didn't. And unfortunately it was one of the biggest demifactors of his downfall on that. And you have to realize where your weak points are, and you need to literally stay away from them. And if that means it's a hard no, it doesn't mean that you can't have fun. It doesn't mean that you can't do other things, but you have to figure out what is healthy for me to celebrate. What is healthy? And I thankfully I don't have an alcohol problem, but I was always worried about it
Yeah.
because I saw what it did to him. And there's so many people that are affected by that, or it's drugs, or they say that you can't do nothing if you have nothing. Well, that's wrong. You can bootstrap what I do. You don't need a team behind you to do it. You just have to have the tenacity to never give up and to always push yourself forward. And so for me, growing up with a father, like I said, I had a great life. I can't complain.
Yeah.
But I saw those things happen, and one of my two older brothers is the same thing. And so you can see the control that gets taken over your life. And so when you want to be truly free, and it doesn't always mean again that everything is roses and rainbows, but you have to be free enough to be able to make those choices, because it is a choice. It's a choice to be happy. It's a choice every day to get up and do what you need to do, because not choosing something is still a choice,
Amen.
because you're not going forward. You're not allowing yourself to get that traction and to move ahead, to hit those targets. You have to know what you're aiming at in order to know what you're going to hit, because you're never going to get anywhere if you don't have a point, a compass, a direction of where you're going. And so you have to do that. And people say, oh, well, I'm stuck in my 9 to 5. No, you're creating that boundary for yourself. Take off those blinders and get out of the box and see what's out there, because it's always a choice. You choose to keep yourself down, and you choose to keep yourself there. We can stop at any point in time and not choose to continue on. People do it every day. And there's nothing wrong with people that have a 9 to 5 job. You can't all be everything, right? There was a sign in my parents' restaurant growing up that
Hmm.
I remember to this day, right? So it's they bought that restaurant in 1985. There was a sign in the restaurant that said, "Lead, follow, or get out of the way."
Mm.
I wanted to lead, but not all my brothers and sisters are leaders. My husband can lead very well, and he does for our family. But when it comes to the company or the business, I'm a harder pusher than he is.
Mm.
And it's not because he doesn't know how to do it, that's his choice. But if you don't, you choose to lead, you choose to follow, or you choose to get out of the way and you're sitting beside the road watching everybody pass you by.
Yeah.
It's a choice.
Yeah. I
And so
always
you
say
need
that
to
if
choose the
whatever you're
plan.
not changing, you choosing,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Whatever you're not changing, you choosing. And, uh, your awareness of the potential danger for you is operating in wisdom, right? Going back to faith again, utilizing that wisdom and discernment to say, that's probably not safe for me to go into that area. And for me, that was my kryptonite, right? Drinking was it for me. I stopped drinking some 6, almost 7 years ago now, and ton of benefits, right? I mean,
Yeah.
health, clarity, strengthen my relationship with the Lord, and also let me know just how much of a distraction it was. I was still, high producing, high functioning, making millions of dollars. And I'm like, well, how much better would I be if I got rid of this distraction? The problem is that when you introduce that, then you also introduce a surrounding of other people that also participate in that. So then if everybody's doing the same stuff, you don't really realize it's a problem until you step away from it,
Yeah.
and it becomes very abundantly clear.
And it's all consuming too.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
all
one
consuming. You
hundred
don't
percent,
realize.
100%. It really is. Well, I'm gonna get you out of here on this one because I think you've talked about it quite a bit, and I want to give you a little bit of opportunity to expand on it a little bit more, and that is family, right? So, business owner entrepreneurs struggle immensely in this area, and I don't want to call it balance because I think whenever you're in focus, you're always out of balance. So I don't want to minimize it to that. But I do want to talk about, and I think your situation is unique because you guys actually work together. But there's a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners like myself, where my wife isn't necessarily in my business, but she is my life business, right? Talk about the dynamic of being on one accord on the same sheet of music, working together in business, and still being able to separate the two worlds and say, okay, now it's time for us to just go and date one another and get away from the business. Does that even happen, Julianne? Like, talk to me. Let us know
It
what's going on.
does. It
Okay.
does. It's not always as frequent. There's times through the year, fourth quarter is the hardest, right? Which is funny because that's the time that you get around family.
Yeah.
But it's also the least amount of time we get to spend with each other, just simply because business is super busy during fourth quarter, and then you have all the other, holiday functions and everything. So it's unique, and you're right. Not everybody can do it, and there's no wrong answer to that. There's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with it, and it doesn't mean that you're failing at something if you don't have you're both working together. Our unique set of our strengths, right, and our weaknesses make us that much more compatible, not just for life but for business, right? So he is super tech savvy, super good at data. I can work in a spreadsheet. I do it every single day. But if I can't put a pivot table together, I'm not going to put it out in this beautiful format that he does and all the formulas that he writes and put it in there. I don't write code. That's not my jam. Not at all. But I appreciate the fact that where he's at. And so for our business, we have very specific rules. I shouldn't say rules, very specific outline of what he does and what I do. And we agreed even at the beginning that says, okay, if this is in your arena, your space, you're the leader. Your say is final, right? But when it comes to what it's in mine, he takes my lead for that because this is my area of strength and expertise. And so we rely on that. And I'm not going to sit here and say, well, you made a mistake. Great. Because I'm not perfect. I wish I was, but but you're there to support and to build up. But you're also there sometimes to kick each other in the butt because you have to.
Hmm.
And then when it comes down to the personal side of things, there has to be that commitment between each other, between us, to say, you know what, when we're on the lifestyle home, no matter what it is, his say is goes, but he does ask my opinion, and we talk about everything to be able to get things accomplished because we're stronger together than we are apart. And that's a fact. I mean, it's not to say that we don't fight. Occasionally it does happen.
Mm.
But you also have to reason because life is too short to live it being angry and upset and sticking with your pride, right? You got to suck up that pride. Both of us do. Because there's not a single person in this world that is without fault or pride because we all have it. Sometimes you just have to be like, okay, I'm sorry, sheepish and be like, it really was my fault. And yeah, I did it. And I didn't mean to, and you have a better life that way. And it works out really well.
So, okay. So you guys go into business together how many years ago?
We've been doing this 6 years
Six
now.
years. Okay.
Yep.
And forgive me. Sometimes I just say stuff. Okay. So this was what came to mind, and I hope you could hold the tension of it. But do you think that your marriage was more challenging before or after you guys started doing business together?
Actually, I think our marriage was probably more challenging before.
Okay.
So even though we work together day in and day out, and I interact with him all day long on different things, right? But we don't actually talk until at the end of the day.
Okay.
And it's not purposeful. It's just because he's busy with the things that he's taking care of and his team, and I'm busy with me and mine. So, our work or our worlds intertwine, but it's not a deep personal conversation until the end of the day, right? And we both made those agreements to say, if something's going on in our personal life that doesn't, and that's the same as if you're working a 9 to 5, you can't take your personal life to work
True.
with you.
True.
You can't. It doesn't. If you do, that crossover is going to make you miserable, and it'll make your work life miserable and make your home life miserable. And so we vowed, because I'm not going to affect our oldest son, who's 28 this year, next month, works for us, or Amy, or Jackie, or all our employees. I'm not going to penalize them and have to listen to our personal life, because then you lose that respect on a professional manner. And so I wouldn't want them to do it, so I can't do it too.
Yeah.
Right? There's not special situation because, oh, well, you're the owner, you're the boss, you get to do it. No, it doesn't work, because if I'm doing it, that is giving you permission to do it too.
For sure.
And that's not right.
So who's the one to tell the other one, I'm not talking about work today?
That's usually me telling
Okay.
my husband.
Okay.
It
Fair
is.
enough. Fair enough. But Julianne, this has been a blessing. This has been not only fun, but it's been amazingly insightful. You really know your stuff, and I think in lieu of you being here, a lot of other people now know more than what they knew about e-commerce. And where can people reach you if they wanted to find out more of how to potentially work with you, or just have any other questions?
Absolutely. So our website's www.jjcunlimited.com. It's obviously JJC is Jeremiah and Juliann Crafton. And then Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Juliann Crafton. My husband's on all of those, but he doesn't always do the social media part, just because he's a little bit, like I said, he's my behind the scenes guy. But yes, definitely reach out to us on any of those platforms, and I'd be happy to set up a meeting with you and discuss what you want to do, what your goals are, where you want to get to, and how we can help and serve you to get there.
Very good. Very good. Well, folks, thank you all for tuning in. Please let us know in the comments how this was helpful for you, what actions you may be taking in lieu of it, and I'll make sure to tag Julianne and everything at the bottom of the episode. So until next time, thank you so much, Julianne.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. And thank you all for watching.
All right.